Hello everyone and welcome to the latest ENGWE P275 PRO model. And this is a really special bike because a lot of technology has went into this, and it's an ENGWE like no other until now. Usually when you say ENGWE, you remember their fat tire models, those that run with 45 km/h or even faster, with huge batteries, big, also heavy, but very powerful. But this is not the case here. This is something very light and very dynamic. So this bike was built from the ground up using totally different components, new motors, new transmissions, everything is different. So I'm going to stop with the talking and I'm going to jump directly into the technical details. First of all, we no longer get a rear hub motor, we get a mid-drive motor, and the motor is coming from Bafang, and this is an M200 series model. This motor can output around 65 Newton meters of torque, and it's only rated for 250 watts of power. The transmission is no longer done with a conventional chain and gears and sprockets and derailleurs. This is done by a carbon fiber reinforced belt. And before you might say that this is a single speed bike, so it's not very efficient. Well, that's not true, because it uses the latest Bafang rear hub, which is a 3-speed automatic. So this will change gears by itself. You don't have to do anything else. And this is done purely mechanical and very ingenious. So it doesn't need complicated electronics to shift gears. And you don't have anything here. You don't need any kind of button switches to change gears. To make everything go smooth, there is no longer a cadence sensor that reads how fast you are pedaling, but now we get torque sensor built into the motor, so the bicycle will know exactly how hard you are pushing the pedals, so it can assist you properly without any kind of delay. And this is also more efficient because it dynamically adjusts the power, so it's not overpowering or underpowering you, so it doesn't waste energy when it's not needed. The bike gets its power from the huge battery that is in there. It's a 36-volt battery, but it has 19.2 amp hour capacity, and it uses Samsung cells. The battery is of course removable, and you have very nice protection here. You get this strong cap here that covers the tube, so there is no water getting in near the battery area, and you have a very thick rubber cap here, very sturdy, so you can charge it and lock it. The battery comes out only with the key, so it's very safe. It has a locking pin, and I'm going to also take out the battery, and I'm going to take it out here. And you have seen also how nice the seat is. There's the battery. And now going back to the seat, as you can see, it's a quickly adjustable seat. It has a compression spring inside, and you just use this lever here and it automatically gets up. And if you sit on it with your weight and put this lever up, the seat is going to go down. So you can quickly adjust the height of your seat, and that's very useful because two reasons. You no longer have the quick locking here that can result in your seat being stolen. Also, you can ride this bike in several modes, such as on quick short trips where you stop a lot in the city. You can put the seat down, so you can put your feet down at each stoplight. Or if you go on a longer trip where you don't need to stop that often, you can put the seat higher, and that's more efficient for your ride, so you have better performance when pedaling. The seat is also very good quality. It comes from Cell Royal, and it's a very nice model because it has lots of cushioning. It's rather soft, even here on these parts, yet keeps a sporty look, and it's rather thin and comes integrated with a special clip, and you can use a dedicated light that is included with it, which has several flashing and fixed working modes. This is powered by a battery. And the list of goodies don't end here. You get very powerful Tektro 180mm disc brakes that use full hydraulics. With those you have really good stopping power and modulation. Both front and rear are disc operated, full hydraulics. Then you have this really nice looking frame. As you can see, it's a kind of classic shape but with a modern interpretation, how they put the battery this way so it fits better. And there are no visible welds in no place on this frame. The frame is really beautiful built, so there is absolutely no seeable weld on this frame. And the frame, it's actually built really nice, and with this triangular shape is very resistant. And then another triangle there. This is super solid. And in the front you also get built-in frame LED lights. There are two LED lamps in one housing, and they are very good at lighting up things. We also get puncture resistant city tires with reflective on the side, so you are safer on the road. You get side reflectors, which are mandatory in some countries. Then look at the pedals. Even the pedals are great on this bike. The pedals have small rubber pads on them, which give you a lot of grip, but they are not going to destroy your legs when you hit them, like the one that have the small metal spikes. You know them, you probably have been hit by them. So the pedals, which are made by Welgo, by the way, are brilliant, but they are not folding, and of course the bike is not a foldable one. The bike also comes with extra accessories, such as the full metal mud guards that actually are long enough to hold the dirt so it doesn't get onto your clothes. And we also get a nice rear rack that is compatible with ENGWE bags. And here it has an additional mount for another stoplight, and you can put side bags on it because it has this part here, so the side bag will not enter in your wheel. Pretty nice thinking and doing this type of rack on this bike. The bike also uses a minimalist design on the handlebar, so you get only this tiny combination switch with 3 buttons and a small screen here that's not very visible right now because it has dimming when the front LEDs are turned on. So if I turn them off, you can now see it clearly in full sunshine. It's very bright. There's no problem seeing all the indications there, and you get a lot of information that this can show. You get time that you rode, you get trip, you get odometer, you get maximum speed, you get average speed, you get the instant watt power that the bike is doing, you get an estimated range, which varies from how you ride it and what mode you are in. The bike comes with several modes. You have the push mode, where you can use the assisted walking, and the bike will help you get up a hill when you are not riding it. Then you have the zero mode, which the bike is turning off the motor and it runs like a regular bike. But the advantage of that is the rear hub that doesn't use any power to change gear, so you can ride it as a regular 3-speed bike with no motor. Then you have the assisted modes, and you have the eco mode that gives you the best range but not very much power. Then you have turbo mode, you have sport mode, you have sport plus, and you have boost mode, which gives you a lot more power. You also get here a battery indicator that's currently showing 100% because yes, the bike battery is full, although I did travel something like 5 kilometers until now, it's still full. And you might say, well, that's not very good because there's no way it can be full after you ride 5 kilometers. It should be at 99% or something like that. Well, the battery is huge. It has a lot of capacity. And if you look at the watt here, watt indicator, when you run the bike goes so smooth and it has absolutely no drag and nothing. It simply just glides, and the bike is also light, and you often find yourself gliding and rolling without using the motor. And when you use the motor, because it has the torque sensor, the bike will just give you the exactly needed amount of power to get you to the speed that you want, and then it will gradually reduce the power of the motor as the power is given back to your legs because you have attained the speed that you wanted to have. And then again, it uses minimum power. You often see that doing something like 20-30 watts of power just to help you keep the speed that you are running at. So with that low power usage and that huge battery, I will not say that ENGWE's claim of 260 kilometers is a crazy estimation and it's not possible. I believe that actually I can do 300 kilometers with this bike if I have the time to do it, if I ride it in the condition that I told you. So you need to be very gentle and just coast it or pedal very slow, and you are going to use just a tiny amount of power, so the battery will last you a lot. Okay, so it's time to ride it to see how it works, and as an idea, I weigh around 95 kilograms. My backpack today has about 4 kilograms, so you can take that into consideration for the dynamics of the bike. All right, I'm going to hop on. Hopefully you are also going to see the display here. The position is rather sporty on this bike, so you sit somehow over the handlebar, and this might not go into the field of view, but there's not much to see here. When you start the bike starts in eco mode always, and you can change the assisted modes or you can turn it off. I'm going to let it in eco mode right now, and I'm going to try to ride it here. So it starts in first gear always, and feels like normal regular bike. You don't need a lot of power to start it up because it's in first gear. It's not a very short first gear. It needs a bit of your pushing, but the motor picks up really well even though it's in eco mode. And let's change it here to show me the power, and now it's showing the watt of power, and maybe you can see them also. So it's doing 50 watts of power to help me right here, and because now I'm starting to go downhill, it of course uses 0. And now if I go slightly uphill and I start to pedal or on this rough ground, now I'm using 80, 90, 100 watts of power, and now I'm using just 24, 28, 30, so it varies with the load. Now let's get down. This is a very steep hill. On my action camera it's not going to look like that because this deforms how it looks, but I tell you that my rear wheel is locking up and I'm barely stopping. And let's get to the asphalt, because this is a bike intended for asphalt, not for off-road. There's no suspension here, but we are doing a review and we are testing now the off-road capability. And actually, even with no suspension, because it has large wheels, it's 27.5 wheels, they are kind of giving you a bit of comfort even if they are lacking suspension. And I'm glad that I'm off that, but here comes more. And the first thing that you'll notice is this one. And if you haven't noticed anything, I'm going to try it again. Try to notice something. And if you are not hearing anything, it's just because this bike doesn't make any kind of noise beside the wheels. There's not even the rear sprocket with one way making any kind of noise. This bike uses different system because of the automatic hub, so it doesn't make the clicking annoying noise. It doesn't make any kind of noise, just the wheels. And now let's talk about the gears, and also we are going to do a hill climb test to see how this bike goes. So when you start, the bike will stay in first gear for up to 15 kilometers per hour. 15, not 50. So let's understand that. So you are going to pedal as much as you can, or as slow as fast, as long as you are under 15 kilometers per hour. If I pedal faster, you are just going to feel, just made me feel that the pedals are just putting more resistance. And now I'm starting to lose speed because it's getting harder. The bike tries to cope up, and I just release a bit the tension on the pedals, and the bike has went into the first gear, and now I'm climbing this hill with eco mode, and it's helping me with 150 watts approximately. Now what is interesting about this hill is that you have seen my older reviews on other bikes. This hill here, even though again it doesn't look steep, this is not a hill that you can go up with a regular hub motor. So if it's a scooter that has 250 watts, it's not going to go up. If it's an e-bike with a hub motor, they barely make it uphill, but you need to help them, because on electric you are just going to crawl something like 5 kilometers per hour on top of the hill, and you are barely going to do that. With this bike in eco mode, I didn't have any kind of problems getting there, but it's eco mode, and I was already getting into second gear. So you can approach this in two ways. You can keep it slow, so you can keep it in first gear, or we can repeat the test and give it maximum juice. So I'm going to repeat that, and from standstill I'm in boost mode, and let's see what the bike will do now. And I feel like I'm Iron Man, and I'm already doing 24 kilometers per hour going uphill. 22, 20, and I'm just skipping a gear now, and I'm in second gear because I was already going up in third gear, and now the bike is again in third gear. And that's interesting about this automatic hub, is that you no longer need to press or rotate various levers. It's going to do that seamlessly, and it's very pleasant. It does it in a very pleasant way. And now I'm going to do another test, and hopefully this is interesting for you. So I'm in zero mode, no electric power, so I'm starting off in first gear, and I'm trying to accelerate, and I have no problem doing 15 kilometers per hour. Now I'm in second gear already, and now I'm doing 20 kilometers per hour, and I'm in third gear. So you can pedal the bike with not much effort, and you can use it as a normal regular bike if you want to do some exercise. It's not intense, it feels like normal bike, although the first gear is a bit high, so it could have been just small amount lower, but probably it's too complicated to have that, and that also depends on each person. But you can use it without any kind of problems, although it's much better than a fixed gear bike. It's really runs nice in first gear with no effort. Now I'm already in second gear again, and it feels awesome to be able to pedal this fast and without losing my breath. And now let's repeat the test from the same starting point here, but I'm going to try it with boost mode. So it's boost mode, pedaling is first gear, and I'm already in second gear, and now I'm in third gear, and I'm doing 25. The motor has cut, so I can only go faster, and I was doing 26, and the speed was getting higher just by my legs. So when you do more than 25 kilometers per hour, the motor will stop assisting you, because this bike is completely limited to 25 kilometers per hour. And also, as you can see, there is no throttle. So this bike is specially made for the European market. So it comes locked at 25 kilometers per hour, no throttle, 250 watts of power. Although there is a thing that no one says with this legislation of power. All the motors that claim 250 watts, it's not true. The idea is that this regulation with 250 watts, it's kind of a nominal power and sustained power. So it will run for 250 watts of power for a long period of time, and it will not exceed that power, but doesn't regulate the boost or overboost power of the motor. So regardless of the motor brand that you are running on your high-end expensive bike, that motor, when it's actually making the torque, the maximum torque that the factory is claiming, it actually draws a lot more power. And Bafang here has been very, very truthful. And when you go into boost mode, you can see the actual watt that the motor is running on overboost, and you can see things such as 400, 450 watts of power going into the motor, which is amazing, and it feels amazing. You feel the torque of the motor, and when you are especially in low gears, you can go uphill if you don't hurry without breaking a sweat. So for instance, now I'm trying to keep my speed under 15 kilometers per hour, and I'm barely making any kind of effort. But the bike, if I give it a pedal and push it, you can hear the sound of the motor. Now I'm doing 400 and something watts of power instant, and it went into second gear already. So I need to ease off the pedaling, and it goes back into first gear. And I was telling you about the efficiency and how easy the bike will simply glide or coast. So if I give it a bit of speed, now I'm going to stop doing anything. I'm not pedaling anymore, and the bike will simply go and go and go, and it keeps the speed, and you can cover great distances. Now I need to brake here, and I was actually going slightly uphill there, and now I'm going slightly downhill, and I'm not using anything, 0 watts of power. Going downhill is another story. You can get some really nice speeds because there's nothing to stop you. I'm actually using the brakes, and you can still pedal, and I'm doing 38 kilometers per hour, and the brakes are just great. Another thing that I like very much is that when you start, you have no delay, because this has a torque sensor. The torque sensor works by feeling the pressure that you are applying on the pedal. So it's instant response when you are pressing the pedal. The bike doesn't need to read the speed of your pedals. It just puts out power according to how hard you are pressing the pedals, and that is done almost instant. There is no lag here, so it's really nice to have that in comparison with a normal cadence sensor. Also, having this system brings yet another big advantage. There is no ghost pedaling. If you want to ride slow, the bike will not try to keep a speed. As you see here, you have a lot of assisted modes, but those doesn't work like on the other ENGWE models, where you just select kind of a limit for the speed and the power, but the bike has a preset speed such as 10 km, 15 km per hour, 25 km per hour, and so on. No, in this case, these assists are only for when the computer measures the torque that you are applying on the pedal. It gives a boost of power according to how hard you are pressing the pedal, and that's it. You don't have a limit for the speed or the power of the motor. Actually, the power of the motor multiplied by the power of your foot. So it's rather interesting, and it's a big change when you ride this kind of bike with this kind of sensor in comparison with the other ones. And I was saying that because of this system, you don't have any kind of ghost pedaling. So you can adjust how hard you are pressing the pedals, and that's it. So I can choose eco mode and I'm putting effort, and the bike is just helping me a bit. Then if I want to, I don't feel like pedaling too hard, I can go in turbo mode, I can go in sport mode, sport plus, and boost mode. Where in boost mode, you are still not getting ghost pedaling, you are just getting more assist and more power, but you also need to put out more power. The single disadvantage of this system being so smart is that it's also very complicated, and it has a controller that is very smart, and it's hard-coded, programmed, and has firmware, and it will not allow conventional unlocking modes like ENGWE has on other bikes. So you cannot do any kind of combinations or other stuff like that. You cannot unlock the top speed, which is hard lock at 25 kilometers per hour. As for the automated gear shifting system, it's also interesting. It takes a bit of time to adapt, because sometimes you want it to downshift, and it's counterintuitive, because usually on a regular bike you just keep on pressing the pedals, then switching a gear and pressing the pedals again. Here you just need to let the speed drop until it goes to the threshold where it can change the gear back. So if you want to go to first gear, you don't have to do anything else, just to let the speed dies until it gets to 15 kilometers per hour, and just ease off the pedaling just a bit, and you are going to feel that you are then pedaling faster and you have more torque onto the pedals. It's as simple as that, but very easy to do it. If you are going uphill and you are pressing with all your power onto the pedals, regardless of the mode that you are in, and you are in high gear, the hub, the automatic gear hub, may decide that it cannot shift back. It doesn't decide, because it's more complicated. It has an internal locking mechanism, and if you press very hard on the pedals, the locking mechanism, it's held locked in place, so it cannot downshift. But if you reduce the pedaling power just a bit, it has enough time and torque to disengage the top gear and going to a lower gear that corresponds to the speed that you should have when you are going uphill. So very easy, but again counterintuitive at first, but you are going to get used to this very easy after just a few rides with the bike. And to demonstrate that, we are back at the hill. So I'm in first gear, I want second gear, I'm in second gear, and I'm going to try to keep second gear, and I'm going slower and slower, but especially I'm not pressing the pedals too hard. And now I feel that I'm pressing too hard, and I just ease off the pedals. The speed has dropped, and I'm in first gear, and now I have a lot more torque, and I can pedal with a higher cadence, but with almost no effort. So that's how you change the gears manually, let's call it that way, when you are going uphill and you want to downshift. Alright, and now you have seen how the bike rides, and I find this absolutely amazing. It's something totally different. It's a new experience. It's the first time when I ride an automatic hub, and it feels great. It's so nice, because I'm not stressed about switching gears. It's something that I did for years, and I find that natural. But this takes it to another level. It's something super relaxing, so you can ride anywhere on any kind of terrain, going uphill, downhill, straight line, and you just are relaxing. It turns the ride into a pleasure, and you don't have that thing that when you are stopping you need to remember to switch to first gear or lower gear to be able to start fast and then switch gears up. It's simply different, and different in another kind of way, in a very pleasant kind of way. And now the usual pros and cons. So of course there are a lot of pros on this model. Everything is fine, the brakes are great, the frame geometry is really nice. It's like a real bicycle where you can actually pedal. It's not no sense here. It's not heavy, it's light. You can even use it with no battery power, so it's very pleasant to ride. It's actually a bike that you can ride. It's a bicycle, it's not an electric bicycle. But when you put electric into this game, it turns into totally something else. And the mid motor, the Bafang motor, is really nice and very smooth. It's super silent. It only makes a small whine when you are going uphill very hard on the boost mode, and it's actually doing a lot more power than the regulated power, and it feels really nice. Also, not having a chain is nice because you are not going to get dirty on your pants. You are no longer going to do dirty maintenance. You are not going to wash the chain, wash the sprockets, wash the gear, adjust the derailleurs. You just escape of all those things. So you just hop on the bike and ride it. Some people might say that the belt is not good because it can break, it can... it's not true. There is a guy on YouTube which crossed the world on a single belt. You can do easy 20,000, 30,000 kilometers with just one belt with no problems. I also like the display a lot because it gives you a lot of information such as cadence, calories, time, trip, odometer, maximum speed, average speed, the instant power usage of the motor in watts, the estimated range, which in my case is still growing because I started with something like 50 kilometers and now it's showing 81 kilometers and the battery is still full after 14 kilometers. So the range on this bike is simply amazing. The brakes also are amazing. They have very good modulation, so they respond very well in how hard you are pressing them, because I've rode hydraulic brakes a lot and some of them are, as I call them, digital, because they do not work, they do not work, they do not work, they do not work, and then locks the wheel. So these have proportional feeling to them, so when you press the lever you can actually adjust the pressure that you are applying to the brakes. Even the tires are great with this tread pattern because they are rather silent. You just barely hear them and they have very low rolling resistance, which add more to the efficiency of the bike, uses less power, makes you go faster and longer without putting kind of a brake to you, because there are no big knobs that make a lot of noise and try to stop you. And on the Pro list there are a lot more. The seat is nice, you can adjust the height of it. The bike is really well made up, so everything is held up in place nicely. There is no battery rattle, there is no squeaking noises of the direction, there is no playing the headset. So I didn't adjust anything to it, I didn't adjust the brakes, nothing. I just put it up together. You can see a video here. You only need to take care when you are installing the front wheel, the washers here to be in the correct order, and that's it. It's super simple to install it, and I didn't adjust anything. I didn't have to tighten or check any kind of screws. So that means that ENGWE has really stepped up into quality control, because on their previous model there were some screws sometimes that were a bit loose and you had to check them, but that's also in the manual. In the manual says that you need to check the screws periodically, because during the vibration and the riding of the bike they can come off. Well, it's not the case here. Everything was perfectly put up together. But you know me, there always is a con that must be found, so I actually found two cons on this bike. The first one is this holding system here, this bracket. The metal is rather soft and this vibrates. It's not a big problem because it vibrates, as it doesn't actually make any sound when you are riding the bike. It only amplifies the wheel noise, but there's no rattle. Still, there is a small problem. The screws that hold this bracket here to the mudguard are a bit long and are actually very close to the tire, so this will vibrate, but it will not touch the tire, but it goes very close to it. My bike had a small accident with the packaging and something happened in the transport van and went on the side of the box, and somehow, although this was taken off, it was in an area of the package that actually bent a bit this. So this bracket is a bit close to the wheel on this side. So when I first rode the bike, I was hearing a noise that was happening from time to time, and I couldn't figure out what it was. It was this screw touching the tire. So all I did, I just pulled on the bracket a bit, so I bend it back so it's centered on the wheel. This should be sorted out with slightly shorter screws that will make the space here a lot more larger and will reduce chances that the screw will touch the wheel. And the second con is this system. If you are very powerful and you are pushing this with all your weight down, you can actually push it a bit too much and you are going to squish the O-ring that is protecting that mechanism from dirt. As you can see, I was able to deform it. So when you are putting this down, you should stop and not do it fully in, to just protect that O-ring that is protecting this sliding mechanism from getting all the dirt in and destroying it. So that was it for now. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. Be sure to follow my channel, and you are going to find here a list with a lot more videos with this bike also and with other ENGWE bikes. There are going to be riding on this bike, normal traffic with no nonsense of me talking, and you can see the bike actually working in a real environment such as in traffic. So be sure to check those also out. And until my next video, see you and bye bye.